Genesis chapter 5. The descendants of Adam. This is the list of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, He made them like Himself. He created them male and female, blessed them, and named them humanity. When Adam was 130 years old, he had a son who was like him, and he named him Seth. After that, Adam lived another 800 years. He had other children and died at the age of 930. When Seth was 105, he had a son, Enoch, and then lived another 807 years. He had other children and died at the age of 912 years. When Enoch was 90, he had a son, Canaan, and then lived another 815 years. He had other children and died at the age of 905 years. When Canaan was 70, he had a son, Mahalalel, and then lived another 840 years. He had other children and died at the age of 910 years. When Mahalalel was 65, he had a son, Jared, and then lived another 830 years. He had other children and died at the age of 895 years. When Jared was 162 years, he had a son, Enoch, and then lived another 800 years. He had other children and died at the age of 962 years. When Enoch was 65, he had a son, Methuselah. After that, Enoch lived in fellowship with God for 300 years and had other children. He lived to be 365 years old. He spent his life in fellowship with God, and then he disappeared because God took him away. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he had a son, Lamech, and then lived another 782 years. He had other children and died at the age of 969 years. When Lamech was 182 years old, he had a son and said, "From the very ground on which the Lord put a curse, this child will bring us relief from all our hard work." So he named him Noah. Lamech lived another 595 years. He had other children and died at the age of 777 years. After Noah was 500 years old, he had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now from this chapter of Genesis, we saw the descendants of Adam. And one important thing to note is how long they lived. They had very long lives, with Methuselah living 969 years and his grandfather Jared lived for 962 years. So it's quite obvious that the descendants of Abraham, even though they sinned against God and God banished them out of the Garden of Eden, God still kept his descendants and gave them long life. So that is to show that God's mercies was still upon them, still allowed them to live long, and they ruled the earth at the time. And through the descendant of Abraham came Enoch, who fellowshiped with the Lord, and God took him and didn't let him die. So this chapter of the Bible clearly shows us how the mercies of God can transcend from generation to generation. Not just his curse, but his mercies can also transcend from generation to generation, so long as we listen to him, so long as we obey him and do whatever he commands us. So I want to believe that this chapter of the Bible will give you a glimpse of the rewards that one can get by fellowship with the Lord, even though you come from a very bad family or from a very bad history. So long as you make yourself an exemption and fellowship with the Lord, he's surely going to see you and he's surely going to come to you. Peace be still.